Welcome one and all to Monday Night Nerd. I hope you're having a great day. I'm having a really warm day. I'm in the Southern Ontario area and we are boiling here, but it's going to be a good night. I hope you're doing well. If you're new here, my name is Corp Cosplay. I am a cosplayer from the Southern Ontario area, and this is my YouTube channel. And I do this little podcast. All we do is we talk about nerdy stuff. We talk about video games. We talk about cosplay. We talk about movies. We talk about wrestling. We talk about anything nerdy and geeky under the sun, whatever word you want to choose. And I'm glad you're here tonight. We are going to talk all about Mario games. I am an OG Mario fan from back in the day. I'm still a Mario fan. It's probably one of my favorite series of all time. And I'm going to rank them because I've played almost all of them. There's one in here that I haven't played, and we'll get to that. But we're going to be ranking them from top to bottom. Which one's the best? Which one's the worst? And we're going to talk all about that in a few minutes. But first, we're going to jump into a little bit of news because it was a big weekend if you were a fan of wrestling, and it was an especially big day if you were a fan of wrestling in the Toronto area because the WWE came to town, and we had Friday Night SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and NXT Heatwave back to back Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I checked them out over the weekend. I watched them on TV. I did not go live because tickets were stupidly priced. But that's every live event nowadays. Let's jump in quickly to Money in the Bank. I was very happy with this. Money in the Bank, traditionally not one of the big pay-per-views. For those who aren't wrestling fans, this is a pay-per-view where there are usually a men's and a women's Money in the Bank match. There's 6 people in the match. It is a ladder match. The whole goal of the match is to climb a ladder in the center of the ring, pull down a briefcase that's hanging at the top of the height of the ladder, and inside the briefcase is a contract for a world title shot at any point over the next 365 days. This usually throws a pretty good monkey wrench into what we thought would be the plans for the World Championship match for the next few months. So there was a men's one and a women's one. We started with the men's one, and it was won by Mr. Drew McIntyre, who is in a feud with the one and only CM Punk. Ladies was later on in the evening. That was won by Miss Tiffany Stratton. They had an amazing match. I was very pleased with the women's. Women's wrestling from back in the day was not what it is now. They are kicking butt now on the women's division. They've been doing it for the past probably 10, 15 years, and I'm so glad to see them have such a good match. Later on in the evening, after the men's Money in the Bank, we had a world title match between Damian Priest and Seth Rollins. Damian Priest is the current champion. And we had Drew McIntyre come out near the end of the match and declare that he's going to cash in at his briefcase before the show was over. And he cashed it in, and CM Punk came in and interfered and cost him his opportunity. Damian Priest walked out of the pay-per-view with the championship still on his neck, still around his waist. And in the main event, it was Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton versus the New Bloodline. I thought that was a solid match. I think the Bloodline 2.0 is doing pretty good so far. I think we're all just anticipating the Roman Reigns comeback. And I was actually talking to a buddy of mine about the Bloodline 2.0 and what he thought of it and what my thoughts were. And I think that they're doing a good job with it. I think Solo Sikoa is doing a great job as the new leader. He's way more of a quote-unquote chicken shit heel in that role. He can't win without the Bloodline interference. The only problem is that we're all waiting for that one moment when Roman Reigns comes back and takes on the Bloodline and has his team, which will probably be himself, the Usos, and Sami Zayn based off the past 2 years. I'm very interested in that, but I think we're all just we know it's going to happen sooner or later. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. It's not really going to be a surprise. We're just kind of wondering when at this point. But overall, it was a great night. Also, Mr. John Cena has announced he is retiring at the end of 2025. 2025 will be his last year as an active wrestler. There have been many people in my life, because I'm such a big wrestling fan since 97, who is the best, in my opinion. And I've loved many superstars over the years. I thought, Rob Van Dam is probably one of my favorites. But overall, John Cena is the GOAT. John Cena is, and I don't think it's going to be easy for anyone to come close. He is a amazing talent. He is an amazing human being. He is number one when it comes to Make-A-Wish wishes being granted. Um, Overall, he is exactly what the WWE needed when they needed it the most, when they had their slump in the mid 2000s. And he has been carrying that weight of that company on his shoulders for many, many years. And I will fully admit, I'm going to bawl my eyes out when he retires because I grew up with him. Like I said, I remember his first appearance in WWE back in 2002 when he slapped Kurt Angle, and I've watched pretty much every match that guy has had in his entire career. So it is going to be a very rough WrestleMania watching him have his final match, his final WrestleMania match, and watching the rest of his farewell tour. Hopefully he comes back to Toronto one more time because I would love to see him live one last time. So that was the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. That was the Saturday night. Then Sunday night, we had NXT Heatwave, which I have not been watching NXT lately. I do not have regular cable. I do not have the WWE Network either, so it's kind of tough for me to watch these things. But I had to tune into Heatwave because Hamilton's own Ethan Page was in the main event for the NXT Heavyweight Championship. And if you are new to the podcast, I did an episode way, way back when I first started where I explained that back in the day, I trained to be a professional wrestler. Yes, this 6 foot, barely any muscle kid from Hamilton, Ontario, tried to be a wrestler. And I trained at a local gym, and it was fun. It was more of a it was fun, but I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I knew it based off my physicality and all that, and I got a bad back. I knew it wasn't going anywhere, but I was still enjoying it. And one of the guys who was at the gym on a regular basis, because they were doing shows at the gym as well, was Ethan Page, and I saw him back when he was the original Ethan Page, before even All Ego. And to see him grow from, and he's only a year younger than I am, to see him grow from a kid to what he's doing now and winning the NXT championship in Toronto and being such a heel because they knew he was going to get a hometown hero reaction. He comes out wearing red, white, and blue, patriotic, I'm doing this for the US, or I live in the US gear. Was hilarious. I laughed so hard when I saw it, and I was almost in tears again watching him win the championship because, man, that guy deserves everything he gets. It was really good. It was really, really good to see him win the championship. And I know he's going to have a heck of a run in NXT, and he deserves it so much. I remember popping on social media after he won, and everybody that used to wrestle with him is just praising him on getting that chance to finally hold a major belt. So good for him. I know he'll never watch this because he's way too busy, but Ethan Page, you deserve everything you get. You are a great guy. You've done nothing but stand up for Hamilton, and every person in Hamilton hated you last night, but loved seeing you win the championship. So good for you. Overall, the rest of the pay-per-view was great. Had a lot of fun watching it. It made me want to watch a little more NXT. I have no idea who half the characters are, but it was still a pretty fun event. And at the last bit of news for the week, I've been hardcore trying to get Judge Dredd done for Fan Expo, but stupid PlayStation pulling me in again. I said I wasn't going to start a new game because I just finished Batman, but man, I'm playing NHL 24 and I cannot believe how much fun I'm having playing an NHL game. I haven't played an NHL game in years, in probably close to a decade. But NHL 24 is free for PlayStation Plus subscribers this month, and I booted it up, and oh my God, it's so fun. I am doing be a pro mode. I made myself in the game, Mr. 97, Michael Myers, and I am just enjoying it. I played through the CHL draft. I played with the Niagara Ice Dogs, and then I got picked up 49th overall. Like, come on. I only had a couple assists in the preseason, but I got picked up 49th overall, and I'm rocking it with the Minnesota Wild right now. I was actually kind of bummed to be on that team when I first got picked, but I'm actually having a lot of fun with that team right now. So I'm about 4 games into the season, and yeah, it is so fun. I know I got stuff to do. I've got 2 3D prints going on right now, and I've got 1 little one to go. But yeah, in my spare time right now, I'm just loving NHL. But it's fun. It's fun, and I know I got to focus more on cosplay, and I am, but downtime is NHL. We got some comments going on here. You not having the channel is shocking to me. Yeah, it's honestly, it's a cost thing. It really is. Like I had the channel for a very long time. But now that it's partnered with Sportsnet, it's 15, 16 bucks a month, and I'm not watching it on a regular basis. If I was back in the day when I was watching Raw, SmackDown, and everything else, it was worth it. But it's the on-demand part was really nice to have in case I randomly wanted to watch a documentary or something. But it's 15 bucks a month that can go in my pocket, and it can go towards cosplay stuff. It can go towards gas to go to conventions and stuff like that. So ever since and this is something I kind of want to talk about a little bit. And I didn't think I would, but this is actually a very good transition. I have there's a couple people in my life that are no longer in my life for whatever reason. We've just kind of gone our separate ways. And I realized, thinking about it a couple days ago, that these individuals were very good at spending my money, and not spending my money and like spending it on them, but we're no problem, going out every other time and going out and just spending money left, right, and center every single day. And I don't think that was the reason why we kind of went our separate ways, but I kind of look at it like I think I kind of put up a front, or just kind of put up a wall, and was like, I can't spend that much anymore. Like I really got to start cutting back on stuff, especially when I want to start taking this way more seriously. And I'm not looking to be, the best cosplayer in the world or anything like that, but I just enjoy doing this more than, going out and spending, on action figures. Like I love my elites that I have, but there are so many that I've passed up over the years because it's just not worth spending $30 for it to sit on a shelf, which, to be honest, this is in front of it and I don't even see it half the time. So, when it comes to things like the WWE Network, when it comes to, just little things here and there, it might not seem like much being $15 a month, but when I think about how much I'm using that $15, it's not really worth it, in my opinion. So I ended up canceling it probably 2 years ago. I think it was just after the pandemic. And that was another thing. That was one of the main reasons I did have it, was I used to have pay-per-view parties. I used to have everybody over, that everybody dropped like $5-6 and, bring food and stuff, and we'd all watch the big pay-per-views. Well, I've got other friends now that are in Buffalo that we go down there for WrestleMania, and I might have a few people here for the Rumble in January. But other than that, no one really comes around to watch pay-per-views. So it's just not really a good investment for me. And especially now that PlayStation Plus has gone up in price, and 4 or 5 days ago, I just had to drop $157 on PlayStation Premium for the year. So no, I'm perfectly fine not having the WWE Network. There are other ways to get that content when I need it. But as of 2025, the WWE Network is moving to Netflix. So I will have the WWE Network in about 5 months. So I'm not worried I'm missing a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of it. Money in the Bank, Heatwave, NHL 24. All right, let's do our sponsor, and then we're going to get into the show. Folks, if you're still here, that means so much to me. If you can hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, all that stuff that shows you like this stuff, that shows that you're an interest in video games and you want me to do more video game content and rank some of these franchises, because I've been a gamer since little diapers pretty much. So I got some thoughts on some of these franchises and what, ones were great and ones that weren't, because I'm telling you right now, I got one on this list that you're not going to be happy with. There's usually one that I know everyone loves and I'm just like, it's not for me. But if you can hit that like button, that would be amazing. Sponsor, as always, my beautiful, loving wife, Hun. It is today. Today is actually our 12-year first meet date anniversary, whatever you want to call it. 12 years ago today, my wife and I first met. It would have been yesterday, but funny story, my wife slept in on our first date. Yep, she was at an Aerosmith concert the night before, and she slept in, and I was down where we were going to meet, and I called her, and she was just waking up. And I said, wait, we'll just do it then tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And yeah, we met, and 12 years later, we're still together. We're married, and we have a great, great life. And I couldn't be happier, hon. I love you. Happy 12 years. And here's to another 120 minimum at least. Love you, hon. Okay, we are at that point in the day. Let's jump into this list. Now, I want to go over a little bit of a base rule. First, we are only doing the mainline Mario games. We're not going into, Donkey Kong. We're not going into Mario Kart. We're not going into Paper Mario. We're not going into that stuff. This is just mainline games. We're also not going to do any upgrades, new re-release ones. We're not going to do, I know Super Mario 64 has a DS version. We're not doing that specifically. We're going to just do Mario 64. We're going to go in chronological order. We're going to go through 1985, which was the first Mario. We're going to go all the way down to 2023 with the latest one, and that is Mario Wonder. When did I start liking Mario? Mario, I think for a lot of people, was their first video game. I was a 1988 baby. So my first Marios, technically, based on my birth year, are 2 and 3. However, when I was growing up, my dad got me a Nintendo, an NES system, and got me the original Mario with Duck Hunt. And I never had 2 and 3 until much later in life, when I actually ended up rebuying an NES. I have always kept all of my old consoles. I've got my Super. I bought a Genesis when I started to get a good allowance. I've still got my 64. I've got my PS2, etc. I do not have my original NES and games, because back in the day, when I got a new console, like my dad got me my NES, and then when he got me my Super Nintendo, he took the NES and left it at his place, because my mom and dad are divorced. I live with my mom. I went to see my dad on the weekends. When I would go there, I would play my NES. Well, it got to the point where I ended up getting my N64. He took my Super, and he ended up having a garage sale and sold the NES with all my games. And when I found out about that, I had a meltdown, because those were all my games. I was simply lending him, for his own enjoyment, all of those games. So I do not technically have my original Nintendo. And I had a pretty good amount of games too. As I said, I did not have Mario 2 or Mario 3, but I did have Mario 1 with the Duck Hunt. I had the gun. I had, what else? I had Top Gun, which was a nightmare. I had TMNT, which was also a nightmare. But it was a really good group of games. It wasn't crazy. It was probably about 10 to 12 games. And that was my first introduction to Mario. And then it wasn't until, once I got my Super Nintendo and I kind of realized what gaming was, and I was in school at that point, that was when I really became a gamer. So while Super Mario Bros. Was my first one, my first real one was Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. That was the first one where I was kind of like, okay, video games are cool. Let's focus in. Let's try and learn as much as I can about this game, because it is incredible. So let's jump in. I do have, I think you've probably seen this on other channels. We've got a tier list over here that is going to help us rank all the games, so you can kind of see where we're going to put everything. This is one that was pre-made by the tier list people There are some in here that we are not going to cover. Donkey Kong Jr., all the Paper Marios, stuff like that. We're not going to cover. They're already in here, though, so it's a pain in the butt to take them off. So let's start things off with the original. Let's go with the Super Mario Bros. For the NES. Folks, if you have not played this game, if you've not played Super Mario Bros., even as like a kid now, it's still a fun game. And I think that is what makes it such a classic. Because I think if you give a kid Sonic, if you give a kid Crash, if you give a kid Kirby, anything like that, I feel like they won't enjoy it as much as you do. I feel like there's definitely that generational gap with them of, you know, I remember playing the original Zelda and I've been playing all that. And I feel like if you gave that to a kid now, the platform and the character has done so much and grown so much and technology has grown so much that I feel like there'd be a disconnect and I feel like they wouldn't enjoy it as much as you hope they would. Mario, though, I feel like you can throw that on even to a little kid in 2024 and they will find some enjoyment in it because it's basic and it's fun and there's challenge to it, but not a lot of challenge, like enough of a challenge to keep you wanting to play it. And I feel like that is something that I've heard somebody, I heard some reviewer talk about this, and it's very true. If you make an error, if something goes wrong in Mario Bros, it's because of user error. It's not the game. The game is easily winnable. You just need to figure out how to do it. And I feel like that's what makes it challenging but fun. So because we all love it, it is going up to number 1. Like, it is excellent, hands down. We all knew that one was going to be there. We're going to sort of jump timeline-wise when it comes to this game. Is technically not number 2. This came out in Japan, I believe, first, and then we didn't get it until the All-Stars collection for the Super Nintendo. But technically, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels is the second game chronologically. And I remember when I had my Super Nintendo and I got my Super Mario World. I was loving it. And I heard there's a cartridge coming that's going to have the original Mario Bros. Games 1, 2, and 3 on a cartridge for the new system, completely upgraded with new graphics. And there's going to be this new one, this Lost Levels, and it's going to be what was supposedly the really challenging levels of Mario Bros. That was too hard for gamers back in the day that we couldn't have. It was only available in this foreign country that no one ever visited. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is stuff I would love to try. I've never been more bored by a Mario game. And I don't think it's the difficulty problem. I feel like this was very similar to what I felt when they announced the Super Nintendo Mini and they announced that Star Fox 2, the unreleased Star Fox 2 was going to be on there. And I booted it up and I went, why is this so exciting to people? Like, I just didn't enjoy it. So this might be one of the ones that frustrates people, but I'm sorry. Lost Levels is going terrible. I probably have played it 2 to 3 times and I've been bored and turned it off within the first couple levels. It's just too much for me. So we're up to 1988 and we're on to the first of the 2 for 1988 and we're on to Super Mario Bros. 2. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of Mario Bros. 2. We all can read it on every bloody podcast and blog out there of that. This wasn't supposed to be Mario 2. This was Doki Doki Panic, and it is now they slap Mario on it, and that's Mario 2. I get it. I know the story. I'm not going to go through it all today. I really enjoyed Mario 2. Obviously, I was a kid. I didn't understand what Doki Doki Panic was, and this wasn't really a Mario game and all that. I just enjoyed that You could play as 4 different characters instead of just Mario. You can play as Mario. You can play as Luigi. You can play as Toad. You can play as someone else. I can't remember who the 4th one is. Mario, Luigi, Princess, and Toad. That was the 4. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool concept. I like the, the going in the door and getting the dark mode and going the negative space and all that stuff. The only problem I had about this game is this was the first time I realized what the words difficulty spike meant. Because I'm enjoying that first world, and then as soon as I get over to that second world, I don't know if it's just because of, a certain amount of lives and stuff, but man, I did not get far in this. It's a fun concept. It's a great idea. I know some people, again, hate it because of the whole, whatever, but I really enjoyed this, and I enjoy it especially because this is, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe this is the last time that you see Mario with red suspenders and a blue shirt. It is after this, I believe it is switched always to red shirt and blue overalls. I'm going to put this in meh because I feel like it's okay, but that difficulty spike hurts it. Let's go on to the next one. Same in 1988. We've got Mario Bros. 3. Similar to that first one, if you're a Nintendo fan, if you're a Mario fan and you've not played Super Mario Bros. 3, you are missing out. This is the best out of this line. The technology has gotten better. The world design has gotten better. The open world map, sort of speaking, that puzzle map at the beginning is really cool. I think a lot more people remember this game because of, the many different things, including being in movies. This was one of the things that was highlighted in the movie The Wizard, I believe it was. It's a great game. It's a great game overall. Again, I can't really say anything bad about it. This is solved the difficulty spike. There really isn't much. It's pretty much just a tough game from the beginning to end, but not tough that you don't want to play it. Tough that it's just a tough game. And yeah, we're going to throw this in again. Excellent. I don't think there's anything you can change about that. I think it's still a solid game even today. And I bet there are more people wanting to play Mario Bros. 3 than Mario Bros. 1. So now we've gone through the NES games. Now it's time to jump into that little handheld Game Boy. And we're going to jump into Super Mario Land. Mario's first debut, really, on the Game Boy. Now, I have a really fun story when it comes to the Game Boy. I did not want a Game Boy until Pokemon came out. I was a big Pokemon fan back in the day and still enjoy it today. But I really wanted a Game Boy to play Pokemon. And when Pokemon Red came out, Red and Blue, I wanted Pokemon Red. And I asked my grandma and my grandpa if that could be my Christmas present, because there was Game Boy Pockets were cheap at that point. So I asked them, can you get me this Mario game? And can you get me Pokemon Red? And they said, sure. And I walked in and I picked up my Game Boy. I was so happy. I had my Pokemon Red, and sitting in front of me was Super Mario Land. And I was super excited because this was a Mario game. I'd seen so many screenshots in Nintendo Powers and stuff like that. I was super excited. And it was pretty fun. It's the Game Boy, so it's got its limitations. It's not great, but I think with what they had for technology, I think they did a fine job with it. Again, this is one that if you've sort of got the muscle memory for what Mario was on the NES, this is definitely a switch. But I still think, like I said, they did a good job with it. So we're going to put Super Mario Land for the Game Boy into the okay category. I think it's okay for what they could do with the technology. Now we move along to my first Mario game in 1990 for the Super Nintendo. We had Super Mario World, and this is my first. This is one of my first loves. I remember buying this game and loving it. This had so many cool things, including the iconic debut of that green dinosaur Yoshi. You had the flying cape. So many changes, and this is something we'll talk about throughout the poll. There are so many innovations that Nintendo does when they jump to a new console that you can never expect. And stuff that I think if you wrote it on paper, they would be like, no, this isn't going to work. Why are we wasting time? Let's just do what we did before. It worked. Let's just do it again. This was a big change. Having a completely different engine now with the 16 bits. You've got that top world map again, which I appreciate. Probably one of the best looking top world maps. A lot of backtracking in this one, replaying levels. Now that you've upgraded certain blocks, when you hit the button, blocks would appear that weren't there before, so you can get to different parts of the world. I loved it. However, I'm not going to say it is excellent because of all that backtracking. And as a kid, it was confusing as hell to me. There was some of it I understood, but I remember going to my cottage and my cousin was there and he was a few years older than me and he's just running through how to do all these secret things. And I just have no idea what he was talking about. And I accidentally deleted his save and lost all of it. And I was frustrated. So I'm taking it out today by saying that Super Mario World is great. It is not, however, excellent because I feel like for a kid, it was just a little too much to remember when it came to all that backstory or that backtracking. We're in 1992. We are on Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Now, remember the story I just told you about Super Mario Land and how I wanted a Mario game for my Game Boy when my grandma and grandpa got it for me? 6 golden coins was the game I asked them for. I will be completely honest, that was the game I asked them for. And unfortunately, they did not grab me Super Mario Land 6 golden coins. They grabbed me the original Super Mario Land, which was a very different game. The graphics, the fun of Super Mario Land 6 golden coins was a blast. I think it's obviously the best one for the GameCube because there wasn't many, but I feel like I don't want to say that they could have done that with the original, but there was a 3-year difference between them. So I'm going to take that statement back. They couldn't have done it with the technology they had at the time. Overall, it's a great game. I think it's really fun. I believe this is my first introduction and everyone's first introduction to Wario. Just the artwork alone on the cover with the shark with boxing gloves, like it brings so much intrigue to what is going on because these are all characters none of us have ever played against before. So I really enjoyed Super Mario Land. It was way better than the first one. I'm going to put you in good. I think it is good for the platform. It is not an excellent game. 100% it's not, but it's still a fun game if all you have is a Game Boy. We're going to move a few years ahead. We've gone from 1990 with Super Mario World, and 5 years later, we are now into 1995 with Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Now, this game is an underrated classic. Again, if you said to me back when Super Mario World was out that the next one is going to have you play as Yoshi, great. There is going to be a baby Mario that you are going to have to carry around. What? And it is going to be in a very hand-drawn style, not 16-bit pixel. What? And the final boss is going to be you throwing giant eggs at a Godzilla-sized baby Bowser. What? But boy, when I say it works, it freaking works. It is an excellent game. It is one, like I said, that I don't think gets the appreciation that it deserves. I know, but Baby Mario can get so annoying after a while. If you are bad at that game, you want to just throw the controller after a while because hearing Baby Mario cry over and over again gets quite annoying, even for me. But the idea of taking you could have taken Super Mario World and just duplicated it and everyone would be happy, but you took something completely different and put in a new engine, throwing eggs, all these crazy things. Man, it is a great game. It is just as good as the first one, and it's completely different. We are now through the Super Nintendo. We've gone through 2 generations. We've gone through 2 generations of video game consoles. We have seen them innovate from what was a side scroller with very little plot to a game where you're playing as a sidekick with a baby version of the main character. What are they going to do next? Well, in 1996, Super Mario entered the 3D universe with Super Mario 64. And I don't know if you can use the word the thought of taking a game like Mario and saying we're going to do it 3D is, again, it's insane to think about. And that they knocked it out of the city with that game, and it became a platformer's dream and a staple for what other platformers on the console tried to do. Dude, it's incredible. Let's not even get into the probably 10 to 15 different moves that Mario can do in the game that you probably never use. I want to remind you, Mario can breakdance in that game. Let's not even get into the soundtrack. You put on Dire Dire Docks now, it still takes you back to the day you probably played that for the first time. The game of just taking place in one castle is brilliant. The throwing Bowser around is brilliant. This is a 10 out of 10 game, and it is still, after, what was it, 96? We're almost at 30 years later. It's still an incredible game. Let's move on to the next one. So we are now moving into another console already. We only had one mainline Mario game on the N64. We had other Mario games. We had Paper Mario. We had Mario Kart, but we only had one on that system. And that's because coming out of nowhere was the Gamecube with their little tiny discs. And we had Mario Sunshine. We had a game where, again, you took an Italian plumber who has battled Bowser and saved the princess countless times at this point, and you're now going to give him an attachment on his back that cleans up the island of Delfina. What? But it worked. And I know so many who say that this is their favorite. My wife downstairs will tell you this is her favorite Mario game of all time. I, however, have a different feeling on this game. I did not have a GameCube, first of all. And Nintendo 64 was my last Nintendo system. When I was growing up, probably similar to a lot of kids out there, you had a choice when it came to new systems. You had the Nintendo Sega Wars going head to head, and you had to pick. Do you want Mario? Do you want Sonic? So I started with my NES, and then, do you want Genesis? You want Super? Well, I picked Super. Okay, well, do you want an N64 or do you want a Sony PlayStation? Ooh, well, I don't know what a PlayStation is, really. They haven't really said what it is. They don't know. I don't have a mascot or anything like that. I'm going to stick with my N64 because I know what I'm getting. Loved it. The next generation, though, do you want a GameCube or do you want a PS2? And I had a friend at the time who was wanting to get an Xbox, original Xbox, but he had a PlayStation 2 and he had a bunch of games and he wanted to get rid of it. And I said, well, I'm interested. How much do you want for it? He gave me a price. And I went home and I said, well, Mom, I'd get a system and I'd get all these games and I, would save us some money in the long run. And she said, okay. So I got a PS2. I did not have a GameCube. And I had heard so many people tell me how great this game was. Oh my God, I heard so many people. Oh, it's the best one. It's the best one. It's the best one. I never played it until the new Mario All-Stars for the Switch. And when I say I pretty much bought it for that because it was the first time I was able to own it and I already had the system, I threw that thing in the Switch. I started that thing up, and 3 minutes in, I went, what the hell is this? It is one of the most clunky controls I've ever played. I did not enjoy it at all. It is probably the worst Mario game, in my opinion. And I know I'm going to get flack for it. My wife knows that I was going to say this, and she goes, I'm going to give you flack for it. I am not going to put in terrible, though, because I know how many people like it. I'm going to simply put it under bad. It's my list. I didn't enjoy it. I'm not putting it in terrible because I know there are people who will die by this game, but it's not for me. So we moved on to Super Mario Sunshine. We are now into the Wii. We're just going through consoles, and here's where we start to pick up steam when it comes to Mario games. This is where we start to get a ton of them. We're going to jump into New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Nope, wait. We're going to go into New Super Mario Bros. This is where the naming becomes a problem. We got a lot of games named Super Mario with nothing at the end. Becomes a little confusing. We're now going to do New Super Mario Bros. For the DS. This again, I did not have a DS. My girlfriend at the time did. And it was so fun picking up this game and saying, it's a new version of an old game. It was such a great idea. It was such a smart idea on Nintendo, especially when you have a platform like the DS that it just fits perfectly. It is such an old school style console, and this game fits perfectly on it. I had a blast running through this. This was one of the few games later on in life that I could not put down. I enjoyed this a lot. I will say it is only good, though. I will not put it as great because I feel like besides the large Mario, there isn't a lot in this game that is innovative. I feel like this is just, let's try it and see if the fans like it. I think later ones are better. So we're now into the Wii. We're now on to Super Mario Galaxy. Again, let's talk about innovating. Let's talk about the last one we just talked. We talked about Mario going to an island with a water cannon to clean up. And the next time we meet Mario in a mainline game, he's going into space. And we are going to learn what Mario and gravity play a factor into each other. Like, these are, when you really sit down and think about the jumps that these guys made, and they've all been really good, it's a miracle that they survived. Mario Galaxy is probably a game I've beaten more than any other Mario game. I absolutely love Mario Galaxy. I think the concept is cool. I think the controls are almost perfect, even on the Switch, even on the new release, the Mario All-Stars. It's still fun to play it without the motion controls. It's a great game. It's a great game. It's introduced, the Luma's princess. I can't remember her name with the blue dress. It is such a good game. It is I have to put this one in excellent because, again, I've beaten this game at least 4 times. Absolutely love it. Now we're getting into the Wii ones. We are now into New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And this is the first time we went Mario with multiplayer. What? Okay, so we're going to do a 2D, 3D, whatever you want to call it, side scroller with multiplayer. We're going to have you and 4 other people all try and play the same level. When I say this is pure chaos, this is a pure chaos game if you've got 4 players. It is so fun, but it is an absolute chaos trying to get from one end to another without killing each other randomly. A great game. I believe there are a couple versions of the Wii that came with this game, so it's going back to the old school way of buying a console and you get a game with it already, which I think it should be a standard practice at this point, but other consoles still have a problem with that. But yeah, it's a great game. It's, again, controlled chaos. It is super fun. This is going to go under. It's going to go under good. It's going to go under good. It's fun. I do think it gets more forgotten than I realized. I thought this would be a classic for many, 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 many years. It kind of died after the Wii. Like, I really thought that would have been a port, but I guess when we talk about it later, they did do more with it. We're now on to the sequel of Super Mario Galaxy. We're in 2010, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Again, taking a platform that worked so well and just upgrading it with characters like Yoshi. It's just as good. The problem with this one is I played the first one so much that I didn't play this one that much. And I know it's stupid of me, but this was when I was really starting to get into other things in life and my gaming consumption started to wean a little bit. I do own this game, and I've said multiple times I need to set up my Wii again so I can sit down and actually play this game. But from what I did play, I loved it. So I'm gonna definitely put this one in the good. I think it's a great game, but I just haven't played it enough to really say how good it is. Then we're going on to New Super Mario Bros. U. New Super Mario Bros. U. This is where we kind of get forgetful, and which sucks because I think the concept of the Wii U is a good idea. I just feel like this one just kind of gets lost. I know they re-released it again in the deluxe version for the Switch, which I'm glad. I know I have to pick that one up at some point. But yeah, Super Mario Bros. U is just forgetful, kind of like the console, which again sucks, but we got a re-release. I mean, when you do a Super Mario Bros. U, it's forgetful. You do a Super Luigi Bros. Because it was the year of Luigi, and it's forgetful. And then you do a remake on the Switch, and it's still kind of forgetful. I'm sorry, I gotta put this one in bad. It's just not that great of a game. I played a little bit of it when I was at a friend's house who had the Wii U, and I was like, this is cool, but it's not blowing me away. We're now into 2013 Super Mario 3D World. So we're on to 3D World. Now, this is one, again, that I haven't played a ton of, but from what I did play, I loved it, and I will tell you why it is going to be high on this list. Even though I haven't played it that much, hang on. I just realized we missed 2 games. I've gone down the list too far. Let me back up. So we went from Super Mario Galaxy 2. We forgot Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS. This is one that I shouldn't have missed because I actually loved this game. The 3DS is a really interesting console. I thought this would be one that was going to be purely a gimmick. I thought the whole 3D thing was just going to be and no one cares. Like it works for some things, it doesn't work for others. I remember loving the 3D capabilities of the DS and having this one where you can see all around everything in a 2D, 3D environment. I thought it was a great game. And again, it was another solid side scroller for Nintendo. I am, however, going to put it in the okay because I feel like if you took away the 3D capabilities, I feel like it would be pretty forgetful. I feel like that did hold the gimmick a bit, and that's kind of what I liked most about it. The game is good, but I feel like the 3D is what held it above anything else. And then last for the DS, we're on to New Super Mario Bros. 2, which, based on my first one, did really well. It was good. So I was really excited for this sequel. I was thinking this is going to be even better. They figured out what worked in the first one. We're going to go right into the second one. And it is going to get such an upgrade. And by such an upgrade, they went, we're going to give you 1 billion coins, to the point where it means nothing. And I kind of understood the point of it, because I know there are people out there that love collecting coins in Mario games. Not me, though. I enjoyed it. I really did. And I remember beating it and going, okay, I have 50 billion coins or whatever I ended up with. What does that mean? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And that's where I kind of was like, it's just, again, I feel like it's a good game, but the gimmick of having 10 billion coins is just not worth it for me. So it's going to go in the meh. So now we're on to Super Mario Bros. U. And as I said, nope, we got that one. That's forgetful. Super Mario 3D World. There we go. So the thing about Super Mario 3D World, and this is what I was going to get into before I got sidetracked, it's a great game. The whole 3D running around, this is the way we're going to be going for future Mario games, is really fun. The idea of putting Mario in a cat suit was, again, like, what? Why? Does he have to have every animal? And then I played it, and it was so fun. And then he makes a cameo in that suit in the movie. And I was like, okay, all right, you win. It's a fun gimmick. Again, I only played it for a little bit, but I did have a lot of fun with it. It is one of the games that I'm probably going to be picking up in the next little while for the Switch, because there is the Switch version with Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury is on my list. However, I do have to point out that I have not played Bowser's Fury yet. That is the only Mario game that I've not played because it's so new and I just don't have enough time. So we're going to put Super Mario 3D World in an okay. Again, I don't think it's blockbuster. I think it's a good game. And I feel like once they add this Bowser's Fury, from what I've heard, it makes this whole collection a lot better. I feel like that's the little bit extra that they needed on it. So now we're into a weird place with the Mario franchise. We're now into Super Mario Maker. Now, this is an odd one because it is technically a Mario mainline game. I don't agree. I think it is a game based on a very select few who like building stupidly hard courses for people to run through. I didn't enjoy this at all because there's not really a Mario game from what I saw. It was a lot of just building and you just kind of play other people's levels. So the Mario Maker series, I've got to put in bad. It's just not. It's not my game. It's not something I want to run through really hard, complicated levels and get frustrated. Go on the rest of YouTube. You'll find an audience for it, but it's just not for me. Same with Super Mario Run. I feel like this was Mario and Nintendo trying to cash in on the mobile app franchise idea. We have many games out there like Angry Birds was big for a long time. Candy Crush is still probably 1,000 people still playing that now, if not more. And I feel like this is Mario's attempt at it. And I just don't agree. I played it and I played it for maybe 5 minutes. I turned it off. Mario is best on a console, plain and simple. It's not a phone game. And I feel like this was their way of trying to figure it out. It's the same with the Mario Kart on the phone. Like it's not for me. So Mario Run is terrible in my opinion. And I don't even know if it's still available anymore. Let's jump into one of the last ones, and this was in 2017, Mario Odyssey. Again, we're going to put Mario in real world New York, all these weird lands. Like, it's just some of these things, and especially the last one on this list, you wonder, like, is somebody super high when they're coming up with these ideas? Because you guys jump all over the place when it comes to some of these ideas. But man, do they freaking work. Man, do they work. Mario Odyssey is such a fun game. This was one of the first games I got for my Switch. And the replayability on this game is something that I don't think gets talked about. There are a lot of games out there. You know, there are a lot of games, especially games like Galaxy and Super Mario 64, where you can go back and get more stars, more etc. But Odyssey is one of the few that I actually wanted to. Like, I don't know, when I beat Mario 64, when I beat Odyssey, I really didn't want to backtrack and just clean up all the stuff I missed. Odyssey, I do. And I don't know if it's because I want to buy all costumes or what, but Odyssey is showcasing that Mario can go from 1985 and be in 30 years later and still be blowing it out of the market. Like, it is an incredible game, and I think it's one of the reasons that Switch is sold so well. We've got a couple more left, folks. We're on to Super Mario Maker 2. I did not like Super Mario Maker, and I really did not like Super Mario Maker 2. It is a game that I just went, why? The first one had such a niche audience that the morbid curiosity factor had some people interested in it, me included. And then when I heard there was a second one, I went, the amount of people you probably lost on the morbid curiosity after trying it and the people you gained from playing it, I don't think is even enough, in my opinion. I'd have to check the sales records, but I just don't think it was worth going through a second one of it. It wasn't for me, and it's one of the lowest on my list. Bowser's Fury is an NA. I haven't played it yet, so it's not for me. And last but not least, we are on to Mario the Acid Trip, in my opinion. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Folks, there is a game where Mario eats a special flower and crazy stuff happens in the world. It's kind of weird, but it is so fun. It is such a fun game. It is short, though. And that is why I have to say it is not going to be very high on this list. The innovation in this is really cool. How the worlds change and, you know, different things in different world changes and characters change. But it is only about a 4 to 5 hour game. And I was really upset that it was only a couple hours. I really wanted it to be a long, drawn-out series or at least game, but unfortunately not. Mario Wonder is sadly got to be in the meh. It's a good game, but that short life hurts it, in my opinion. So that is it, folks. There we go. There's our rankings. So we've got Excellent. We've got Mario. We've got Mario 3, 64, Galaxy, and Odyssey. In the Great category, we've got both Super Mario Worlds and Good. We've got 6 golden coins, New Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. Wii, and Galaxy 2. And okay, we've got Super Mario Land, 3D Land, and 3D World. In Meh, we've got Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. In Bad, I know it's going to hurt some people, but we have Super Mario Sunshine, New Super Mario Bros. U, and Super Mario Maker. And in the worst category, worst of the worst, the Lost Levels, Mario Run, and Mario Maker 2. Folks, we are at just under the 1 hour mark. Thank you all for tuning in. If you are still here, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Before we go, I put out on my Instagram a few days ago asking you what your favorite Mario game was. And we have a couple answers here. We've got from Psycho in Alice. Super Mario Bros., the original, which is understandable. From Kill Patty, we've got Mario Kart. Now, I have not played enough Mario Karts. I've not played many of the middle, GameCube, Wii ones to really get into it. So I'd love to do it. I'd love to do a list like this on that, but I've just not played enough of them. But Mario Kart, the original, is amazing. Even today, Pretty Nerdy Crystal throwing out the right hook with Mario Paint. Wow. I loved Mario Paint. As an art kid, I loved Mario Paint. And I loved the little mini games. I love the coloring book. I love the mouse pad. I love the soundtrack. I've got that soundtrack saved on my YouTube feed, and I listen to it every once in a while because it is great. Edith said Super Mario Sunshine. I apologize, Edith. I know I disappointed you in this one. And Tara said Super Mario Bros., the original. Folks, that is it for tonight's show. I greatly appreciate all of you stopping by. In the next couple weeks, I've got a couple shows planned, but I want to give all of you watching a quick sneak peek. 90s month is coming up. I did this when I first started the podcast. I did a whole month of 90s themed shows. And in the next couple months, maybe next month before Fan Expo, I've got a couple 90s episodes that we're going to be going through. I'm going to be going through 90s comic book movies. There were some really good 90s comic book movies. We're going to be going through 90s video game movies. He had a video game movie. We're going to talk about that. And for all you kids out there, all you kids at heart, all you 90s kids, we're going to do an episode talking about 90s McDonald's toys because they were the currency of kids back in the day. You were the cool kid if you had a whole set of McDonald's toys. So we're going to do all of those in the next month. But until then, folks, have yourselves a good night. Have yourselves a good week. My name is Myers Corp Cosplay, and I will see you all very soon. I love you. Talk to you soon. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.